Hello and welcome back to a new episode of the CTO Show with Mehmet. Today, I'm very pleased. Joining me from the US, Helen Gu. She's the founder and CEO of InsightFinder AI. The way I love to do it all the time, my audience know by now, is I keep it to my guests to introduce themselves. So, Helen, thank you again for joining me today. Tell us a little bit more about you, your background, your journey, and then we're gonna deep dive into I think an important topic. I didn't discuss it much, like we touched base on it, which is all about reliability of the AI era for the AI era. So, but before this, welcome again, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Hi, everyone. My name is Helen Gu. I'm the founder and CEO for InsightFinder. And also, I'm a professor at the North Carolina State University. So, InsightFinder is founded based on my research in the area of distributed system reliability using AI technology. So, I started my research back in 1999. So, it's almost like 30 years ago. And so we start to look into how to enhance distributed system reliability using automatic technologies. So back then, people tried control theory. And then basically, I started to use neural network technologies to actually perform anomaly detection, prediction, and diagnosis. And since then, I've been focusing on this area for many years. And so first published research papers in the space, and then basically launched the InsightFinder after actually I spent my sabbatical year at Google evaluating our anomaly detection algorithms. So fast forward today, and so InsightFinder AI has been basically providing reliability services to Fortune 500 companies.
Great. And thank you again, Helen, for being here with me today. Let's dive in immediately talking about, this important topic, which is reliability. So we're talking a lot about AI, and we know like AI systems. I studied this when I was, maybe more than 25 years ago when I was still in college. So AI systems are probabilistic by nature. So
Yes.
what breaks first when companies try to operate them with traditional software engineering and DevOps practices?
Yeah, I think that you basically touch upon very important aspect of AI, right? So most of the AI is under hood is basically statistical machine learning. So because it's statistic, so inevitably it will make mistakes, right? So the other thing is that very interesting. AI doesn't have closures, and so most of the time they don't actually tell you they don't know. They always give you answer, right? Just as a simple example, if you go to ChatGPT or go to Anthropic, you ask, okay, what is Windows error code 0x14f? And they will always try to give you answer. And you was, if you are not a domain expert, and you probably don't know the answer they give you are all wrong. And so the reason is that those large language models are trained based on domain knowledge, like trained on public knowledge, not domain knowledge. And so when they actually trying to do the inference, the AI technology will always actually take the inference path has highest probability, but that doesn't mean it's actually logical or it's actually real, right? So that's a fundamental reason why the AI models will always have, all kinds of mistakes. And then, although the mistakes can be very rare, but the key thing here is that if you don't catch that, and so it will have a big business impact if you don't know that, right?
Right. And of course, like there is no system which can be 100% accurate and mistakes can happen. And this
Mm.
brings me to something maybe my audience would be familiar with. And I know like you have done this comparison about, how the rise of site reliability engineering, known as SRE. So a lot of people know it maybe as SRE during the cloud era, like, like everyone start to look, yeah, how we can make sure that we are 99.999%,
Mm.
available. What is the
Right.
equivalent wake up call moment for AI reliability in your opinion, Helen?
Yeah, so this is actually go back to my research area, right? So when early days we look at distributed systems, and so everybody was saying, oh, can we achieve 100% reliability? And then basically I always teach this in my class. And so we have this famous proof. So 100% reliability is impossible in kind of internet-based distributed system. And so that's why we have this 99.999, right? And so, but still, it's very useful, right? It's, distributed system, cloud computing is extremely useful, and it basically becomes the backbone for all the computations. So it doesn't mean like you cannot achieve 100% reliability, you don't use it, but you have the right, you know, um, kind of prevention, detection, diagnose, and detection techniques in place to basically handle that, right? So I think a similar thing here in AI side. So we probably need like kind of operation people to actually manage and watch those AI agents whether they are doing like the correct thing. Now the challenge, of course, is different, right? So like cloud is about infrastructure, but AI agents is about model data, and also there's more implication on the user interactions, and also on the sense of like security, sensitivity, sensitive information leakage, things like that, right? So there's extra kind of challenges. Yeah.
Right. Now, if I want to think about it, Helen, and if I'm an executive listening or maybe watching us today, from a metrics perspective, how do that looks like how we can describe the operation reliability in the AI for the enterprises.
Yeah, so now basically the monitoring has to become really, really fine grained. So this basically at InsightFinder AI, we provide this real time evaluation technologies, right? So for every conversation, every prompt, every response, you need to actually evaluate in real time whether it's accurate, whether it's actually have like sensitive information leakage, whether it has bias, whether it has basically factual inaccurate information, right? So those basically you need to do all those evaluations. And so, at InsightFinder, we have very comprehensive suite of evaluations. We also allow the customer to customize those evaluations for their specific use cases. Then for all those evaluations, you basically you can pass evaluation or you fail the evaluation, right? The metrics will be actually how many evaluations you passed, right? And so as you can imagine, this is a much finer granular measurements, accurate measurements than traditional way of saying like availability, performance, those kind of things. And so we also partition this evaluation into different aspects, right? So like, in terms of hallucinations, accuracy, or fairness, bias, or basically the security trust scores, right? So this is basically you are looking at different metrics measuring different aspects. Yeah.
Right. Now, always when we try to explain any any solution, any technology solution to anyone, we try to mention, because I worked as a solution consultant before. So there's something we call the cost of doing nothing, right? Which is basically the risk of not solving this problem. So how dangerous is silent failure in AI systems where the model technically works because it's spitting out, something to us, but you know, business outcomes quietly degrade over time. So, how dangerous is this? And sorry to make it like a little bit long question, because I think this is related. And
Mm.
is that related to the model drift and data drift also?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, I think the impact you asked for the impact, right? The impact can be really, really huge because so now it's directly AI agents is expected to not only provide basically passive information, they are expected very soon to take actions and change things, and then basically provide basically immediate impact to your business, right? So any errors during this like process is basically could be detrimental. And the other thing is that now basically we're looking at multi-agent systems, right? So not just a single agent. And so a lot of agents, AI agents, they will collaborate to perform some complex tasks. And so if you have some upstream AI agents make mistakes, and it will actually propagate very quickly throughout all the business units, right? And so this is basically at a high level, it could be extremely fast propagation compared to traditional, more like human to human kind of interaction. So first of all, they are doing things much faster. And so the other thing is that if you don't have this real-time evaluation control in place, and so unlike human, right? So we are basically we have conscious, and so we have responsibility, we have ownership, right? And so you can hold people accountable, but how can you hold the AI agent accountable, right? So it deletes, basically spend all your money in your bank and buy something useless for you. And how do you blame, right? So there's a very important thing. Who do you blame? You blame Anthropic, you blame ChatGPT, or you blame your people, but you don't have people actually in place to supervise them, right? So I think this is very important. You need to have control in place. You need to have observability in place, and you need to have a human to actually review those things in place as well. So so it's a very for the AI system is evolved so quickly, and people can really become much more productive than before, and you can see like the productivity dramatically increases. But at the same time, the risk also increases dramatically as well. So if you don't have the right basically observability or control in place, and so this will be actually disasters, right? And so obviously the second question you have is model drift, right? So because if you actually make the AI system based on the existing foundational models, like say you based on Anthropic or ChatGPT and Gemini, and they will update their models, right, from time to time, and their model
Right.
behavior will change, right? So let's say yesterday you ask, okay, should I buy this stock? And maybe tomorrow they will tell you, no, and then the day after tomorrow they will change your mind to say yes, right? So the model behavior will change based on the training data they have, but it doesn't mean that actually is accurate for your use case, for your scenario. So if you don't have the model drift detection in place, you don't know, your behavior changes, right? So let's say ask the same prompt and you get a different answers, right? And from yesterday, and you should be aware, right? You should be aware, okay, is this model problem, or is my data has a problem, or is basically my business has changes, right? So now it becomes much more complicated, kind of, at the core of InsightFinder is to do anomaly detection. And so we used to focus on like a cloud infrastructure application, but now we also have the anomaly detection for model, for data features, right? And so all those things needs to be actually correlate together and to see, okay, when you have the changes in your business decision, is this coming from your model behavior change, coming from your data change, or coming from your infrastructure change? So this is basically needs to be examined together. Yeah.
Right. Helen, we hear sometime also about organizations, and especially if they are into regulated environments, so where they start, their projects in sandboxes, right? So it's like, you know, isolated environment. They would be like dealing with less amount of data, and everything works perfect. But once they go and deploy on a large scale, things goes south. So why, in your opinion, this happens?
Yeah, that's a very canonical problem, right? So testing, like you have so much coverage, right? So like especially in the traditional distributed system, you're testing all kinds of like corner cases in the system level. And so maybe we understand how system behaves, right? They have limited dimensions you can actually monitor. And so that's an easier problem, right? But now we're looking at AI. more important, AI is actually interacting with human. And so there's a lot of unexpected things and could happen. And so so most of the time, like, offline analysis, offline training always have limitations, right? So when you go to the production deployment, you are encounter, unexpected data input, unexpected model changes, unexpected prompt kind of interactions between different agents. So all those things, basically, you need to have basically production time, runtime, monitoring, and control, right? So that's why at InsightFinder, we laser focus on the production, runtime, monitoring, and the management. So that's where basically the real problem you can catch. And more importantly, like we started this conversation, is that no AI models is perfect because it's statistic. Fundamentally, it will make mistakes. And more importantly, what we saw is that all those foundational models are trained based on general knowledge, not your specific business. So inevitably, when they use this kind of like generic models in your specific business, they will make mistakes, right? So they will tell you something that doesn't apply to your business. So it's very important to catch those specific failure case and then basically transform that into a training data that you can iteratively fine tune the model and to fit your environments, right? That's what we basically do at the InsightFinder, is that we provide this end-to-end basic monitoring, data training, data collection and the correction, and then basically fine tuning. This kind of like very automatic closed feedback loop to continuously enhance the models that work for your cases, right? So so I think the failure is inevitable, and so very important thing is to catch failure first, and second is to actually fine tune your models and to adjust your system to actually correct that, right? And so if you have both measures in place, and then you are basically minimize the risk, right? So you know how to control the risk. Yeah.
Right. So, Helen, I think you repeated, and of course, I agree with you. Couple of themes, during this conversation. So, first is the risk, and we discussed why it's a risk. And the second thing you kept mentioning is observability, and this reminds me a lot of cybersecurity, because in cybersecurity, of course, we talk about business risks, and we talk about, of course, observability. We always used to tell people you cannot protect what you cannot see.
Mm.
Now, the reason I'm asking you this, um, are you considering yourself with what you're doing at InsightFinder AI as a categories, a new category setter, where you aim to have this AI observability parts of a mandatory infrastructure?
Yeah, so we basically tell our customer is that we are not just an observability tool, right? So for us, like, whatever you do, like monitoring, observability, it's a tool, right? But I think what we observe from our customer is that they don't need a tool, they need a solution. And so a lot of, I think, the people happen in the past is that like people use observability tools like, open telemetry monitoring like Grafana, or basically using Datadog or using any other monitoring tools, and they can get the data, they can get visibility, but they don't know how to react to it and how to extract important actionable insights, right? So that's what we do at InsightFinder, is to say, we don't dictate what kind of tool you use, and we are tool agnostic. You can use whatever tools you have, and we help you using AI technology. That's another thing. Like InsightFinder from day one is an AI company because we develop AI models that are suitable for all kinds of observability data, right? So whether it's metric data, log data, trace data, and so we help our customer to extract those important anomalies, right? Those are basically risk induced points you need to capture in real time, right? And so we provide these real time actionable insights to our customers so they can actually capture those important moments. And then, more importantly, we're not just observe, we actually help a customer. We give recommendations what they need to do. We also have the automation in place, they can trigger those automation to fix the problem. And more importantly, we also have prediction capability to predict, not just detect, but predict when something bad will happen, right? And then basically we can help customer to prevent the problem. So I think this is basically the flow you needed for any kind of mission critical systems. So you need to be able to actually not just actually monitor, but also react and control the damage, and then to basically recover system. Yeah.
Right. Um, a question that also I'm wondering a lot about, because back in the days we knew where to go and who is the proper leadership responsible, for protecting things, right? Like whether it
Mhm.
was in the cloud era, site reliability, whether from cybersecurity. Now, what are you seeing like in organizations with this AI, revolution that is up to us? Um, what's being who's being in charge for this, like, or are we seeing like new kind of roles created within the maybe engineering organization? Are there like any new leadership that is responsible for this kind of reliability in the AI era?
Yeah, so I think that it's a very interesting question, because we see basically this becomes a very important area. A lot of companies and especially leadership teams start to actually form like new organization or new roles on that. And so we have been working with, like, for example, like leaders in AI platform or AI as a service divisions. And so a lot of companies start to actually have like chief AI officer. Now basically I think AI becomes like pretty much incremental part for every business units. And so they become kind of like, instead of the just isolated area doing like data analysis, we are seeing like things that kind of uh, interact with all business units, right? So then we have basically people um, have traditional role of like CDO or basic CIO. They are more kind of like tap into the chief kind of AI domain, or they hire another chief AI officer to help them. Um, so the key thing here is that I think now the AI reliability is basically become, we would say, like interdisciplinary, because it's not just infrastructure, it's not just the data, it's not just the AI models, right? So I think very soon people will realize this is actually become a kind of foundation piece, for all the kind of across units functions. Yeah.
Right. It's interesting, how this also changed the way we look at adopting new technologies. And, back in the days, as you said, like there will be one department responsible for this, but AI touches IT and beyond IT. And, like it goes
Mhm.
even to, even compliance, risk, and so on. And the reason I'm bringing up this is, there's always this, I would say, race between the speed of AI and deploying safely, especially in regulated environments. Um, Anything that you can share, or maybe something or a use case where you can help leadership teams who are under pressure to move fast, and they want to stay in compliance and to make sure that they don't break things, um, where you provide them this because of what you are building and what you have built, this I would say balance between deploying fast at the same time having it safe. And where are you seeing like the most industries where they are more exposed to AI reliability failures, maybe rather than other industries?
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting point. Like that's why when we develop our product, right? So, like I said, our focus is on production runtime, and so once you deploy into production, we perform real time monitoring, evaluation, and basically remediation. for you. So that's basically at the first place have the safety net. But we also have basically another set of products called the AI Labs or RM Labs, and so we basically allow the AI leaders to extensively play with all kinds of AI models they have, and also fine tune those models, right, using real data. So essentially, the labs is connected with their real data set, is connected with real workflow pipeline, and they can extensively experiment with these different AI models and the different prompts, right? So we support like prompt versioning, prompt comparisons, and so we also support like three-dimensional kind of analysis, including data sets, prompt version, and models. And so this way allow people to see like comprehensively and the what scenario, right? So we do that at a very fine granularity for different use cases. So like they can have a clear idea, okay, for this use case, this model, this prompt, this data set actually works the best. So we basically give them comprehensive, basically the evaluation suites. They can actually understand how different like tuning knobs works and their impact. So once we have that, we basically can store them in a centralized place. They can actually have a very detailed view and history on, kind of just like GitHub, right? So you have all the code. And so now we have basically this kind of GitHub like of kind of versioning control for all their prompts and models and data. So that's basically give them the kind of first level kind of confidence, right? So you know, and which part is working, and then basically you send this to basically the production run, and then you continue to monitor, and then we basically collect the back, right? So that's the tracing capability is very important because you need to understand how your model behaves, how your AI agents behaves, and then we continuously tracing all the prompts, responses, and performance. And then we feed back to the lab, and then the lab can continue to do the fine tuning. So this, again, this closed loop feedback loop is very important to basically have this kind of trust in place, right? And so it just like, we rely on like, auto testing GitHub to actually track our code base, right? So it's the same thing. And here you need basically kind of the versioning control, and you need basically extensive, testing and validation before you release to production. And then you continuously monitor that, right? So you need to establish this kind of like workflow for the AI agents as well. Yeah.
Right. If we want like to imagine that we are having a look from the future, what would separate, in your opinion, a company that successfully, operationalized the AI, right, from those who treated AI as just, like, yeah, it's just another software layer?
Yeah, so it will be very, very different, right? Just like today, you can see like from the kind of software engineering field, right? So like we used to like just human write the code, and then basically we might have tools to monitor the code. Now basically this things completely changed, right? So we are using AI to write the code, and then humans start to actually just doing reviewing, architecturing, and then basically be responsible to actually monitor things, right? So this role change is happening, and so for a lot of business, right? So you will see like human becomes more kind of uh, control and guardrail reviewers rather than doing the work, directly, because AI can do a lot of those like tedious, repetitive, and time-consuming work. And so this going to be actually change, right? So I think AI is no longer just a tool, right? So AI becomes part of your workflow, right? And so you can treat AI. It's really becomes one of the team members, right? Just like at the InsightFinder, we have this AI agent called Ari. And so Ari is doing basically this SRE work for our IT infrastructure. So monitor all the systems, and then when something wrong, we can interact with Ari, ask Ari, tell us, okay, what's happening, what's root cause of those problems, how to fix it. And similar thing here, right? So you will soon see like AI agent becomes one of your team members. And now the question is that how do you actually smooth, streamline this interaction between the human operators and the AI agents, and how they actually interact and what's the role changes. So if you don't do this kind of switch in your business workflow, and so you will lagging behind, right? Because obviously for those tedious, like highly repetitive workload, AI will have much more higher productivity than human, right? And also you don't want a human to do those work because they could be actually released to do more intelligent, more innovative work, right? So how to optimize the workflow for the company, and how to actually introduce basically actual kind of reliability services to the business, right? So all those things will basically augment eventually your brand, your basically your business kind of productivity, right? And so this is basically where we see the changes. Yeah.
Right. Helen, as we are coming close to an end, maybe final thoughts and where people can get in touch.
Yeah, so yeah, absolutely. So I think this is just the beginning. And so we are in a very exciting time. And for me, I always like, focus on reliability and kind of like how to make the services trustable, right? So that's my theme, that's my passion. And so at the same time, we are very excited about like new technology, and it's definitely change how basically we work and we live. And just like 30 years ago, when I talk about AI machine learning to people, very few people actually even know AI, right? So they often laugh at it because they think, oh, that's science fiction, right? So you don't have, it is true back then, like you don't have enough data, you don't have the computing power to do the sophisticated inference and training. But now it's changed, right? So then AI has so much data and we have so much computing power to do that. But then I see like people go extremes, right? So they will think, oh, AI can replace human to do everything. And so I think so at this point, like, AI can do certain things, but it doesn't mean AI can do everything. And the other thing is that I think, as a professor, also as a mother, I want to remind people is that, as we develop AI models, as we actually, rush to become the kind of the leader on the AI race, but the most important thing, you need to educate people, right? So like, still, I don't think the AI can replace the creative side of human. And we need to actually educate our, kids to learn how to use AI and educate ourselves, right? So it's, anybody is new to AI technology. We need to learn how to use it, but we need to use it responsibly and responsibly, right? So it's very important is that you need to be aware AI will make mistakes. That's statistical models, right? So as we see that at the right beginning, don't trust the AI like 100%, right? So like I saw people go streams, right? They used to think, oh, AI is all science fiction. Now they think AI is all like, God, right? So we need to be aware, right? So there's risk here. There's a reliability concern here. We need to actually put that in place before we actually fully embrace AI technology. And on the other hand, I do think basically it's very important to be aware that how to actually educate our people to learn how to evolve and how to actually work co-work together with AI, right? So I don't believe it's AI replace human. It's more like how to actually collaborate with AI to become more productive and make our life better, right? So yeah, so if you're interested in this topic, happy to reach out to us, right? So you can contact us through insightfinder.com, and then basically we will happy to actually share our insights or share our experiences with our customers, similar like use cases in this domain. So we definitely see many interesting real world use cases. Yeah.
Right. I want to thank you for, the way you concluded things, Helen, especially about the point of, how we look at AI. It's, as you said, like people think it's the wizard, the thing that is like super intelligent that never make mistakes, but we know that it still makes mistakes. I advise people to go read books, non-technical books about AI, because this is what although like I come from technical background, but this is like eye-opener for me to understand about bias and why actually these LLMs makes these mistakes. Understand like a little bit on a high level why they hallucinate, like the logic. You don't have to be too much technical, and I think this is important. And even myself, um, I fell in this at the beginning. I thought, oh yeah, the AI is like 100% gonna give me right answers, but of course, I figured out quickly that no, I need to go and check, what it's giving me, and think this about a personal side. Now think about a company that maybe manages, people's portfolios in a financial institution, or maybe they are like a hospital and it's people lives on the
Yeah.
what we're discussing, right? So I agree with you on this. We need to educate ourselves. Of course, creativity, it's coming from humans, and of course AI can help us maybe put our ideas, but it's our ideas, right? So I really want to thank you, Helen, for sharing this. And of course, the whole conversation with you was um, you know, very impressive to me. And learning about this new field, and it's very important field. And of course, I'm gonna put the links in the show notes, so for people who want to go, they can go and check the website. And this is how I end my episodes. This is for the audience. If you just discovered this podcast by luck, thank you for passing by. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did so, give me a small favor, share it with as many people as you can. And if you're one of the people who keeps coming again and again, thank you very much for the support, for keeping tuning in. I hope I'm doing good job, and I want to thank everyone who tunes in. And because of you, we are able to be in the Apple Top 200 podcast chart across multiple countries. I'm hoping to see new countries also as soon as possible. But yeah, I do this because I believe we can share knowledge, we can share information, and make this world a better place. So, as I say always, stay tuned for a new episode very soon. Thank you. Bye bye.